Hello. Today I'm going to provide arguments against the space expansion and therefore against the Big Bang theory altogether. I'm going to do that by showing that there is direct connection between the value of Hubble's constant and the mass of electron. That connection will show that the Hubble's constant might be responsible for amount of electromagnetic radiation per second. And if the Hubble's constant is responsible for the amount of electromagnetic radiation per second, there is no reason for it to be responsible for anything else including space expansion and Big Bang. Please note that this is not an educational video. Therefore, even though I mentioned the space expansion and the tired light hypotheses in the video, I will not provide much details. I hope that you can find the details elsewhere if you need them. This channel is only about one specific view of reality, not about all of them. I should remind you that all videos on this channel are connected together with the same logic and the same main idea. What if all matter and all energy in this universe are combinations of primitive discrete machines? What could be the algorithm of those machines and how the laws of physics, biology, philosophy could appear as results of those algorithms' execution? Please note that for today's video I assume that the total amount of matter and energy in our universe is conserved. What do we know about electromagnetic radiation? Physicists say that it's a field, and the density of this field falls down as we move away from its source. The highest density of electromagnetic field is near its source. Also, they say that this field does not spread instantly. Electromagnetic radiation is passed by photons and photons move with the speed of light. As a result, electromagnetic field spreads with the speed of light too. So something is moving away from the source with the speed of light. In this case, the amount of that something should reduce in the source. That's what conservation of matter would mean. There should be some reason for electromagnetic radiation. And it should appear in formula somehow. It should be measurable. What is the Hubble's constant? In short, the model of universe currently accepted by scientific community tells us that our universe expands. As universe expands, photons that travel through space in our direction from a remote galaxy lose their energy over time, and we observe that as cosmological red shift. The Hubble's constant is named after the American astronomer Edwin Hubble, who was the first to find the dependency. Galaxies with greater distances have greater cosmological redshift, therefore those galaxies probably move away from us. The expanding universe model is not compatible with the model of universe that I try to describe in my videos. Discrete 3D matrix cannot expand just as natural numbers cannot appear. There is no any distance between natural numbers 1 and 2. They are just numbers. Distance between them does not really exist or change. Also, I'm not sure how additional rows can appear in matrix, as well as how new natural numbers can appear between 1 and 2. So I need another explanation for the cosmological red shift. Explanation that does not include space expansion. Luckily, there was another hypothesis. The tired light hypothesis. It was proposed by the Swiss astronomer Fritz Zwicky. There is one problem. It's considered falsified by modern science. I can't agree. I believe additional assumptions can be added to the model of universe, and those assumptions will fix the problems of the tired light hypothesis. Those additional assumptions are not part of this video. I hope someday there will be another video on that. In short, light can gain rest mass and therefore slow down while it travels through space because of interaction with other photons, just like a ball thrown on Earth slows down because of its interaction with air. We call that air resistance. There can be even more reasons or some mix of different reasons. But it's not what this video is about. I should mention that the space expansion hypothesis has additional assumptions too. It requires so-called dark energy to explain what physicists call the acceleration of space expansion. 70% of all matter of universe would consist of such hypothetical dark energy. Also, amount of the dark energy should grow over time. So we have falsified tired light hypothesis without any additional assumptions and not falsified space expansion hypothesis with acceleration that requires additional assumption of growing dark energy. If it's okay to have additional assumptions, then there can exist additional assumption for the tired light hypothesis as well, which we did not find and apply yet. In this case I would say that both hypotheses are equally not falsified, or are equally falsified. And I'm going to provide additional argument for the tired light hypothesis today. Let's review the tired light hypothesis. Fritz Zwicky assumed that photon exponentially loses energy over time while it travels through space. The less energy photon has, the less energy it loses. Now I should remind you that in one of my previous videos I described every elementary particle as a combination of huge amount of discrete machines. Per my assumptions, reduced Planck's constant not only describes a quantum of action, but also a quantum of energy. Energy of one discrete machine of our universe. In this case particles energy, E equals reduced Planck's constant multiplied by W describes the total amount of discrete pieces in the particle. W is not the angular frequency of a particle as we think it is, but the amount of discrete pieces in particle. Link to that video is in the upper right corner now. In another my previous video I assumed that for the universe of discrete machines free will would be an error in algorithm execution. I also proposed a mechanism for that. Quantum of energy leaves the original particle with specific probability. Link to that video is in the upper right corner now. If we assume that the error or the free will probability is the same for every particle of universe and that the higher energy of a particle the more discrete pieces it consists of, we get a mechanism similar to the mechanism of the tired light hypothesis. Photon as well as any other particle loses some part of its matter or energy every second. And that leads to the cosmological redshift observations. In this case every second every particle loses one Hubble's constant part of its energy, and the Hubble's constant has nothing to do with space expansion, but describes the probability of free will or the probability of error in algorithm execution per second in our universe. All rules should work the same way for any type of particle per my assumptions. Therefore if photon loses Hubble's constant energy per second, then proton should lose energy with the same rate. Let's calculate how many discrete pieces proton loses per second. The Hubble's constant has very strange units, which are directly attached to the space expansion. Let's convert the constant so it can be used for the tired light. The Hubble's constant is still not calculated with high accuracy and different experiments give different values for the constant. As far as I can see, the value is calculated to be between 67 km per second per megaparsec and 73 km per second per megaparsec. Let's assume that the Hubble's constant equals approximately 73 km per second per megaparsec. Please don't forget that it's an approximate value, not an exact one. The exact value is not known yet. I hope that in future we will be able to explain why there are different values at all. Let's convert that value to more suitable units. 2.3658 times 10 to the power of minus 18 per second. For the space expansion hypothesis it means that every second space expands and gets 2.3658 times 10 to the power of minus 18 in addition to its current size. For the tired light hypothesis it means that every second every particle loses 2.3658 times 10 to the power of minus 18 of its current energy. As I mentioned earlier, the angular frequency of a particle according to my assumptions is actually the amount of discrete pieces in that particle. E equals reduced Planck's constant multiplied by W. From other side, the famous Einstein's formula tells us that the rest energy of a particle, E equals mc squared. In this case the total amount of discrete pieces in proton at rest equals W equals mc squared divided by reduced Planck's constant. From public sources we can find out that the rest mass of proton equals 1.6726219 times 10 to the power of minus 27 kilograms. We can calculate the total amount of discrete pieces in proton. W equals 1.67262192 times 10 to the power of minus 27 multiplied by 299,792,458 squared divided by 1.054571817 times 10 to the power of minus 34. That equals about 1.425486 times 10 to the power of 24 discrete pieces. If the Hubble's constant is the part of energy that particle loses during 1 second, we can calculate that proton loses n equals mc squared divided by reduced Planck's constant multiplied by Hubble's constant. So proton loses 1.425486 times 10 to the power of 24 multiplied by 2.3658 times 10 to the power of minus 18 equals 3,372,415.25 discrete pieces per second on average. If we take square root of this amount, we get value 1836.41, which is quite near to the proton-electron mass ratio, 1836.15267343. What does it mean? I must admit that at the moment I cannot show and prove what exactly it means. I might need help of mathematician here. I can only describe what I expect it to mean, using my wishful thinking. Electron is called quantum of electric charge, but is used in formulas that describe electromagnetic radiation. I expect electron to appear to be not a real particle, but some hypothetical particle that describes not the charge itself, but the fact that one quantum of matter has left the source and has got to the receiver of electromagnetic radiation. And that created force of attraction or repulsion between source and receiver. And that happened once within a second. Quantum of electric charge in this case is some kind of statistics that describes the electromagnetic radiation of proton or neutron per second. At the same time, quantum of electromagnetic radiation is actually the quantum of matter and energy, the discrete machine that is described in other videos on this channel. Again, I don't have a way to prove that, unfortunately. I can show you Coulomb's law, provide some arguments, but it's useless as I see that I can't prove anything yet. So I will have to leave it as fun numerology so far. Just to sum up, there are at least two accepted discrete not changeable quantities in physics, the quantum of action and the quantum of electric charge. The hypothesis I'm making in this video and in other videos on this channel is that there is actually only one discrete quantity in this universe. The discrete piece of matter. The discrete machine that executes specific algorithm. This could be a natural explanation, why electromagnetic radiation and therefore the charge that creates it is discrete. Also why the action, one action of the discrete machine, is discrete. All we need to understand is why square appears there. Why charge is connected with the square root of the amount of matter per second. But that is not something unimaginable. Square and square root appear in many different cases in physics. Several such cases including the Lorentz transformation I described in my video about the Schrödinger cat. Link to that video is in the upper right corner now. So maybe the square root is somehow connected with the Lorentz transformations, for example. Or maybe there is some other explanation. We have all the time of universe to try to find out. The same calculations for electron. Mass of electron, 9.1091 times 10 to the power of minus 31 kilograms. Let's calculate amount of discrete pieces in electron. 9.1091 times 10 to the power of minus 31 multiplied by 299,792,458 squared divided by 1.054571817 times 10 to the power of minus 34 equals about 7.76311337 times 10 to the power of 20 discrete pieces. Let's calculate their amount of discrete pieces emitted per second. 7.76311337 times 10 to the power of 20 multiplied by 2.3658 times 10 to the power of minus 18 equals 1836.597439115 discrete pieces per second on average. Can it be a coincidence that the angular frequency of electron multiplied by the Hubble's constant has value that is this close to proton-electron mass ratio? Especially when there are no any predictions for the mass of electron in physics? Mass of electron is taken from experiment, not predicted. I think this coincidence is at least worth attention. A lot of attention. So here we are. If I'm right and this is more than just fun numerology, this connection will be as cool as Euler's identity and Einstein's formula E=mc². Because it connects parts of physics that seemed unrelated. And Hubble's constant in this case would be much more fundamental than anyone could ever imagine. It can be responsible for the weakness of electromagnetic force comparing to strong force, for gravity, for free will, etc. Feel how cool is that? Imagine that epic music is playing in background, that you are a member of a group of adventurers that just found a precious artifact. And the hidden power of this artifact is something that we have yet to explore. And I'm not joking. You can recalculate everything yourself and get the same results. And I can assure you that numerology is quite important for science. It's like getting a key that lets you decode the encoded message. In fact, the majority of physics is numerology. Physics is matching numbers from experiments with math formulas. Only after you have formula you can try to find the hidden meaning of it. Regarding the Big Bang. In a perfect world I would not even have to speak about it as I'm not an expert in the Big Bang theory. The same way I believe that Darwin should not have been an expert in Bible to describe the biological evolution. I have my own model that I describe. I should be responsible only to argue for it. Not responsible to argue against other theories. But in our world I have to say something. Okay. Actually the Big Bang theory is not falsifiable. If it was falsifiable, it would have already been falsified by the recent Webb telescope data. Many well-formed galaxies were observed with large redshift values. It should mean that those galaxies formed very fast after the Big Bang. And that does not match the current galaxy's evolution model as far as I understand. Instead we hear from scientists that the model of galaxies' evolution can be recalculated according to the new data and that's it. And where is the falsifiability in this case? Actually, if Big Bang or space expansion were falsifiable, they would have been falsified even earlier. Space expansion would have been falsified when scientists found out that space should expand with acceleration according to the observed data. Space expansion requires not observable dark energy that would be responsible for 70% of all matter and energy of our universe. Dark energy should grow over time. It does not sound as any kind of explanation to me. New instance, dark energy was added and that's it. Science should try to decrease the total amount of instances and reasons, not to increase it. It reminds me epicycles that were used to describe planets' motion before Kepler and Newton. Scientists observed how planets move in the sky, draw curves matching their observations and wrote those curves in textbooks as knowledge. Modern scientists often say that it was wrong to just record the data and draw epicycles without trying to understand the deeper meaning of that data. Only the deeper understanding can give us real knowledge and real progress. As calculus did. So how did it happen that after so many years of progress scientists are drawing those curves again? Drawing the curves of space expansion instead of trying to provide any logical explanation? Thank you for your attention.